let's move on to the last team in this division, Casino, the Carolina Panthers. And everybody knows what the Carolina Panthers did last year, which is nothing. They were 2-15, obviously missed the playoffs. Going into this year, not fair to do much better. Over under is set at only 5.5. And even then, Casino and I both picked under for both of us. Last year, surprisingly, they had a pretty good defense, 4th in total defense, 3rd against the pass, 23rd against the run. Again, it feels like every team in this division really good against one and pretty bad against the other. So this one, good against the pass, bad against the run. Their total offense, however, was the reason mostly they were 2-15, 32nd in the league, aka dead last in total offense, 32nd in passing, 20th against running, or 20th in the run game, 32nd in the pass game, led by Bryce Young. Going into this season does not look much better. They have the 20th ranked O-line, 29th ranked wide receiver room, 27th ranked running back room, 18th for linebackers, 29th against the D-line. They brought in a new head coach in Dave Canales, who was the OC for the Bucks for the past, I think, for only 1 year, and then he spent the 13 previous years of his life in Seattle. They also brought in Brad Idzik, who is the former Bucks wide receiver coach, now getting a shot to be OC. However, they did bring back a guy who maybe has the best name I've ever heard in my life, Casino. He is back in his second season as
better than Kool-Aid.
Yes. Listen to this name. This guy's name is Ichiro Evero. That's fucking cool.
That's pretty fun.
That rolls right off the tongue. He's back as a second season for the defensive coordinator. Now, obviously, they lost Brian Burns in free agency to the Giants. They replaced him with, hands down, my most hated NFL player, maybe in NFL history, and that is Jadeveon Clowney. They brought him in to be replace Brian Burns. They also traded for Deontay Johnson, the wide receiver from the Steelers, shored up that offensive line with both Damian Lewis from the Seahawks and a big signing in Robert Hunt from the Dolphins, and then a bunch of basically depth, a lot of depth players, a lot of linebackers, a lot of cornerbacks, really trying to shore up the defense when it really was the offense that was the issue last year. So Casino, their over-under going into this season is 5.5. They finished with 2 wins last year. So I asked, better than last year, worse than last year, or the same?
They'll be better than last year, but they're still going to be on their under. I think this is like a 4-win team all day.
But see, I think the same thing. And even then, that's better because they're literally doubling their win total from last year if they get 4 wins over 2, which is
progress.
I mean, it is progress. I do like the moves they made in the off season. They traded for a wide receiver, shore up their offensive line, kind of got some depth pieces on defense to shore up that running defense, which was 23rd in the league. So I like the moves they made, but again, the real question is Bryce Young an NFL quarterback? And I still say no.
So do you think, that's what I was going to ask you, do you think we're going to see some Mr. The Red Rocket, Andy Dalton?
I mean,
that's what I've always called him.
The Red Rocket. So Andy Dalton is the backup. Bryce Young, I mean, if we just look at his stats last season, he threw 11 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, threw for 2,800 yards, and had a basically 60% completion percentage, played all 16 games. So again, but see, the thing is, I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be the second coming of Jesus, aka Patrick Mahomes 2, Tom Brady 2, whatever you want to call him. But I also don't think he's going to be bad, right? You still see flashes of great plays from him here and there where you're like, there's something there. I've never seen a Bryce Young highlight where I'm like, something's there. Maybe, there's a spark of something. Maybe he's got something they can build on. I've never seen that from Bryce Young. And again, He's tiny. He's small. He's not.
They don't, and it doesn't fare well in the NFL, man. It doesn't.
Well, we've made this comparison with Kyler Murray, but again, at least with
Kyler
Kyler
Murray,
Murray,
and then you just want to go back further than that. Johnny Manziel, Tim Tebow, like
yeah.
shorter quarterbacks, like just don't work out.
No, and at least with those guys, I mean, maybe not Manziel, but at least with Kyler, you see flashes of something, right? Where he can outrun everybody on the field. He can make those throws where you're like, wow. Again, I've never seen a highlight of Bryce Young where I was like, wow, I've never seen somebody do that. Like,
Right.
even with Caleb Williams, he had that crazy spin and
Well,
throw. Even with Drake May,
I've seen some bad. I've seen enough bad plays of his to be like, oh wow, I've never seen that.
But yeah, even your boy Drake May had a great play in the preseason where you're like, okay, maybe something's there. Maybe something.
But guess what? We talked about it. Worst O-line of the year by far got called back.
Yeah, that's true.
They're gonna be so bad. They're gonna be so bad.
But as far as the Carolina Panthers go, they did trade for Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette from South Carolina at the end of the first round. And then they got Jonathan Brooks, the running back from Texas, who I actually really like.
Right. And they also, I mean, so like their receiver core shouldn't be too bad. I mean, with Adam Thielen, I know he's fallen off a cliff, but you got David Moore, you got Jonathan Mingo, Adam Thielen, you have people that you've heard of before, Yeah. So like there's people that you've heard of, meaning they were good at one point or they're still decent now, which, there's a lot of those teams out there where you say their entire receiving core and you're like, who?
Well, not only that, you say their entire team and you're like, who? At least now the Panthers, especially with who they brought in off season, their names, like you said, names that have had really good seasons in the past, haven't fallen off completely, like an Adam Thielen, where he's not completely off the cliff. He's just kind of past his prime. Yeah, but again, they're asking him to be wide receiver 2, maybe wide receiver 3 if Legette actually
doesn't pan out.
Yeah. And then their running back room, former Eagles starting running back is now the third string running back on a 2-14 or a 2-15 team. So I don't know what that says about Miles Sanders. I always liked Miles Sanders and thought he was better, but Chuba Hubbard also in competition for great name. He's been in the league for 3 years. Closest he's got to 1,000 yards was last year with 900. So you bring in 2 big guards, one from the Dolphins, one from the Seahawks. Maybe, I don't know. But Casino, anything
they're trending into a better direction. They fumbled on their quarterback.
Yeah, I do think that's going to be the glaring issue. Again, they had no weapons last year, but I just didn't. There was nothing.
Week 6, you'll see. Week 6, you will see the Dalton. You will see the Red Rocket.
Ooh, that's bold.